Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. The third in this series of eulogies to the living is for a friend. I'll tell the stories in a bit, but it's our opportunity now to offer a friendly, maybe somewhat humorous farewell to Senator Ray Scott. I would ask the reader to please read the tribute to Senator Scott.
The Senate of the Colorado Legislature convened in the second regular session of the 73rd General Assembly hereby extends our sincerest congratulations, commendation, and thanks to Ray Scott, Senate District 7. Senator Scott was elected to serve in the 68th, 69th, 70th, 71st, 72nd, and 73rd General Assemblies, where he represented his fellow citizens with dedication and honor. During his tenure with the Senate, he served with distinction as the Assistant Majority Leader and Minority Whip. Senator Scott was the chair of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee and the vice chair of the Transportation and Energy Committee. He also served on the Finance and the Agricultural, Natural Resources and Energy Committees, as well as served on the Legislative Council Committee. The citizens of Colorado and the members of the Senate express gratitude for Senator Scott's exemplary service to our great state and wish him well in his future endeavors. Given this 11th day of May 2022, State Capitol, Denver, Colorado, Steve Fenberg, President of the Senate.
Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Madam President. I first heard from Ray Scott in 2010. Please be seated. You don't want to stand up for 7 or 8 whole minutes while we do this. In 2010, I ran for State House, and one day my phone rang, and there was this guy on the other line explaining that he was running for State House out in Mesa County. He talked with me about needing to secure support from endorsements from conservatives in the state legislature, and I wasn't a member, but because of my work in the prior 8-10 years, I had helped many of them get elected. We talked, and I asked my series of sort of litmus test questions, and he passed, and I started making calls, and pretty soon Ray Scott for State House started announcing endorsements from folks like Ted Harvey and Kent Lambert and others. We came into the House together and went to new legislator orientation. I think Ray mentioned it last night during my tribute, but we went through that new legislator orientation. I think it was in the second round of that Ray asked the question, well, when could he start drafting bills? And I said, about 3 weeks ago. And I came in having waited nearly 10 years to run, 8 years for a specific seat. I had my 5 bills already planned. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as soon as I was eligible, the Wednesday after Election Day, I was drafting bills. Ray shared last night that during orientation, that Thursday that we came in to elect Speaker McNulty and House Majority Leader Amy Stevens, that was really his first trip to the state capitol. Baffling to me, not criticizing it, but just baffling to me as to how someone can come in and go through orientation and learn where everything is, how this process works, when they can start drafting bills. I had at least 7 years to prepare for all that. Ray and I came in together, and over these past 12 years, Ray and I had the opportunity to serve in the majority 6 years and the minority 6 years. Senator Coram came in that same class and came over to the Senate with a vacancy of Ellen Roberts, just slightly behind us. I don't mean to discount that. But Ray and I obviously are the political geniuses in this chamber, because after a long drought in the State House, we ran in 2010 and Republicans took the majority. And then, of course, we had the foresight in 2014 to run for the state Senate, and we Republicans, after a long drought here in the state Senate, took the majority. And I'm sure that Ray and I deserve all the credit for that happening. Actually, no. We benefited from people who worked really hard, like Frank McNulty and Amy Stevens, and over here, Bill Cadman and Mark Scheffel. We were the beneficiaries of that. But Ray also shared that in 2016, he and I were elected as majority leader and assistant majority leader. And we had these two offices, I think the best two offices, at least in the legislative branch, maybe in the state capitol. And we spent a lot of time getting to know each other. And I just want to say thank you to my friend Ray, Senator Scott, because majority leader is a big job. I've described it before as juggling BBs and bowling balls. There's 100 BBs and 10 bowling balls in the air, and you can't let any one of them drop. And Ray was consistently my eyes and ears. He would come in and say, hey, I need to let you know what's going on, what the talk is out there, what's happening in this committee, what's happening with these bills between the two chambers. That's incredibly valuable. But even more so is that he was almost always here in the morning before me, and when you're the majority leader, you're needed here on the floor early on, and as he noted, I would very often call ahead and say, hey, can you do my job for me? Can you step in and make these motions, get this organized? And I truly don't remember a day where Ray said, no, I'm not there, I can't do it. We were a great team those 2 years. And those are some of my most fond memories of my time here in the Senate. What matters most, what helps the most, is a sense of humor. Laughing in times of stress, turmoil. There wasn't a lot of turmoil, but there was some. And Ray's sense of humor is something that I relied on. My mom taught me at an early age, in times of stress and struggle, remember to laugh at yourself. Be able to laugh at your circumstances. And Ray knows that gift very, very well. It's hard, as I've shared in my closing comments on my tribute, it's hard to leave this place because it is so important to me. It has been such a big part of my life for nearly 20 years. There were a couple of years for me that I was away in between the lobby and being a candidate. But it's also hard because there are friendships that have been built here. People I didn't know before I ran. This place was new to Ray. Ray was new to me when we got to this place as elected members. But I hope that Ray Scott and Chris Holbert will remain friends. Not just saying that, not just cordial, but maybe in times of stress, he'll text me or I'll text him, or if I'm in western Colorado, which I plan to be, my sons and I love to hunt and fish and hang our hammocks between trees, and there's hardly a better place than Mesa County. But I'll miss seeing Ray on a day-to-day basis because Ray Scott is my friend. We share a sense of humor. Sometimes it might get a little dark. But all the time, I appreciate Ray because he's not afraid to make fun of himself. And if self-deprecation is outlawed, then only we outlaws will self-deprecate. Never get too proud of yourself that you can't laugh at yourself. And well, today is our last general session day, and it's time to say goodbye to this magnificent place. I'm not going to say goodbye to Ray Scott, because I know and I look forward to spending time with him, maybe over margaritas in Florida or maybe over a cold beer in Mesa County. But I'm going to step aside now and let others come down and talk about Senator Ray Scott. But, buddy, thank you for the past 12 years. Thank you for your support when we sat in those 2 offices over there. And I look forward to spending time with you after this adventure is over. God bless you, Ray Scott.
Senator Cook.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. What can you say about Ray that hasn't already been said? But I first met Ray in baby legislator training. You know, after you get elected, they have the breakfast for you, and you come down and you learn about how this place operates. And we came in together at the Senate at the same time, and he was already in the House, but he came over to see how things were done in the Senate. And I'm meeting him over, like you said, the baby legislative training, having breakfast, and my first impression is like, hey, this guy's pretty funny, and you know, this guy's going to be a hoot to work with. And overall, I wasn't wrong, but you know, and it proved me out over the years. You know, it's like when I think of government, how it should be, I believe in laissez-faire, and I think that's what Ray is. When I think of laissez-faire, I think of Ray, because it basically, the definition is an attitude of letting things take their own course without interfering. And that's one thing I really appreciate about Ray. You know, if it's a big deal, he stands there, he argues it, and it's a big deal. If it's not, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to interfere. Okay, I'm good with it. And I think that's a great attitude. He doesn't let things get to him, doesn't let things bother him. And I think that's why he's going to outlive most of us down here. You know, the beauty of this place is you get to meet all different kinds of people. You know, in law enforcement, they're pretty much all the same. You know, and pretty much the same ideas, same values. And here you get to hear different kinds of, you meet all different kinds of people with different views and values. And like I said, that's the beauty of this place. And you know, Ray brings a different perspective and expertise to this building that I think is going to be missed. Certainly there are going to be people to backfill some of his knowledge, but you know, he has the expertise in oil and gas issues, a staunch defender of oil and gas on the western slope. Construction, has an expertise on construction, and he comes down here and he talks and defends those things. And so I know he's going to be missed there. You know, and the 99% of the time we've had a good time and had fun. And the beauty also is you can disagree on something, get mad at somebody, and the next day you're joking around and having fun again. And one of my kind of favorite, I hope I'm not opening up old wounds here, when we were in the majority, Ray had a water bill up in in committee, and we didn't like it, the Dems didn't like it, and Ray didn't know that. I think he thought that it was going to pass, and he thought he had the Dems and maybe one other member from us. And Ray comes to me and asks me, I go, well, Ray, I can't support this bill. And he goes, well, all right, well, fine, that's fine. It'll pass, don't worry. I go, okay. And I said, but listen, I can't move the bill. I'm not going to move the bill because President Cadman was adamantly opposed to the bill. And so President Cadman said, you know, I told him, all right, I'm not going to move this because I'm not going to get the president mad at me. And so I didn't move the bill. So it came time to move the bill. Nobody said anything. And I'm kind of hiding my head, and I'm pretending like I'm writing something because I didn't want, you know, him to see me. And I look down, Irene Aguilar is down the thing, and she's doing one of these things, like, move the bill, move the bill, move the bill. And I just kind of shook my head, no. So after about a minute or two, Ellen Roberts did the gavel and said the bill died for a lack of movement. And I thought his head was going to explode. That's the first time, the only time, I don't know, it might have happened before, but that's the only time I've seen it down here. And like I said, I thought his head was going to explode. And I unfortunately walked out of the Capitol a little bit, about an hour or two later, and he caught me. Unfortunately, he was right there, and boy, he let me have it. And I tried to explain to him that, hey, dude, I told you I couldn't move the bill. But he just was ranting and raving, and like I thought he might have punched me. But in between time, he went down to the bill drafter and pulled the bill to that very next year. And then it passed, and I think I even voted for it that year. But the next day, we were in his office and talking and maybe having some iced coffee or something. But that never interfered with our friendship. Not supporting that bill or not moving the bill never interfered with it. And I do consider Ray a very good friend. And like the leader said, I hope that when I go over to Grand Junction that we'll be able to hook up and have a drink or have some coffee or breakfast. The other last thing is, that he's done here today, and he's looking for a job. So if anybody has an aide position that's available, he might be, or an internship. If you have an internship, he might be willing, but if you got an aide position open, call Ray first.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam President Pro Tem. Can you hear me? Is my audio coming through okay?
Yeah, Senator Lundin, thank you for joining us remotely. Please go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say that no tribute of Ray Scott would be appropriate if delivered in person, and I prefer to do this remotely in acknowledgement of the great skills and strategy and style of Senator Ray Scott. So it's good to remote in with you here. I'm going to go ahead and stay. Oops, hang on a second. I've got to go get a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to stay right here with you, even though I am remote. The reality is, I'm teasing Ray a little bit about being remote, but the fact is, we do have a big state geographically, and it is difficult at times to be everywhere you need to be and do everything you need to do while covering this big state. And so I certainly understand Ray Scott and some of the challenges that he's had being in the chamber with us always, but it has always been fun when he was in the chamber with us. This is kind of a story on both Ray Scott and John Cook. It was my first year in the Senate chamber, and we'd just gone through leadership elections, and we had a little bit of a kerfuffle over assistant leader, who would be the assistant leader. And we got into a spot on the floor where there was a little bit of tension between Ray Scott and Sheriff Cook over a policy piece and a bill piece. And we're right down in the well. And the two of them are getting increasingly frustrated with each other. And it's going to the point where it looks like it might get physical. And so I chose to step in between Ray Scott. And John Cook, and the minute I got in between the two of them, I realized Ray Scott outweighs me by 80 pounds, and John Cook outreaches me by at least 6 inches. I'm going to get killed in the middle of this spot. And of course, it de-escalated, as it always does. And we ended up moving forward, I think, as a stronger caucus for that engagement and that interaction. When I think about Ray Scott, I really need to call out the fact that I think about one of the issues that is very near and dear to my heart. And right after, funding and providing for great public education for the children of Colorado, I think the next priority needs to be, quite frankly, maintaining and improving our infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I mean the roads and bridges of Colorado. And Ray has been a tireless advocate for that. And for that, I'm grateful. I mean, we have a beautiful state, a great state. And I spend a fair amount of time when not in session on the road, not only in Colorado, but in other states. And quite frankly, at times, I'm a little bit jealous of the condition of the roads in some of our neighboring states and wish that we could do a better job here in Colorado. And I know that's something that Ray has worked continuously and tirelessly on behalf of the people of Colorado. And so Ray, when I think of you, I think of not only a remote legislator part of the time, but I think of someone who has fought tirelessly for the roads and bridges. And quite frankly, I think of you as quite frankly, an element who is an anchor of our caucus. You bring to us kind of a connection, both the past, the present, and the future of who we are as Coloradans. And I am so grateful for that. So, Ray Scott, it's been an honor serving with you, whether remotely or in person. I'm grateful for who you are, and I count you as a friend. You're always welcome in my home, and I hope you would return that favor to me sometime when I stop over at Grand Junction.
Senator Bridges?
Thank you, Madam President. Full stop. So Senator Ray Scott and I did something that was tried for more than a dozen years, unsuccessful, and this year we did it. And I'll tell you about it in an hour. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. One of the things that I admire most about Senator Scott is that he takes on the battles, right? We've heard about at least one bill. I know I see him constantly taking on these major battles that for sure there's no chance he's going to win. He just picks the fight, he fights hard, he says what he needs to say, and then he loses. And then he comes back, the next year, and he picks the same fight, and he says the same things, and maybe he loses that time too. But here we are, after working on this together for 4 years. He said, I really don't like this time change stuff. I'm like, I have an ally on the other side on this. This is great. I hate the time change too. 4 years we came back. And this is after many people before us having done this. And we came back, we ran the same policy, we said the same things, and this time we won. And there is something incredibly telling about the legislature, incredibly instructive about the tenacity with which Senator Scott takes on an issue. I think CDOT is probably happier than anyone else in the building that this is your last day here today. But the changes that you brought to CDOT, from insisting year over year over year on having these conversations, they are a better department, they have stronger policies. This building, this state is better and stronger for you insisting on having those fights year over year, for not letting them go, and for winning. And it has been a pleasure working with you, sir.
I've got Senator Smallwood next. Senator Corr.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Bridges, thanks for bringing up the time change, because I think Senator Scott has been kind of an expert on time for the 13 years that I've known him. He is very much like a broken clock. He is right twice a day, no matter what. Senator Scott and I came in to the House of Representatives together, and we actually, in the House, we shared a county, Delta County, and so we, during the campaign, and that was quite a ride. I remember that was a lot of fun. But serving in the House, I think we were on Ag and Transportation Committee together, and had some great times. And then life got better, because after 4 years I became scot-free. I had the house to myself over there. He was over here. And we had some great times. I thank Senator Bridges for bringing that up, and Senator Cook for talking about the situation with that we had on a water bill. And that was a bill that was dealing with a situation of one of those situations where it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck. Anyway, it was something that very much looked like water speculation, only no, it was not, because water speculation is illegal in the state of Colorado. Ironically, we're looking at the same situation down the San Luis Valley. It took 3 years to defeat that, but you got to give credit to people that don't give up, because it keeps coming back. But Senator Scott has been a great ally, a friend of mine. I somehow got adopted into the Grand Junction Chamber of Commerce, and for every 2 weeks, Senator Scott and I and the two representatives from Mesa County, give a report to the chamber. And but his sense of humor is always evident. But you know, the water runs a little deeper than some might think, because the guy is pretty damn smart. Now look at him; he doesn't look it. I guarantee you that. I mean, but yeah, he's got some. He's got some background there. I'm proud to have known him. But to close, I'm going to tell you, I probably know. I don't think there's anyone who knows more about Senator Scott. And you've all talked about his knowledge and expertise in natural gas. I guarantee that to be true because I shared an office with him. He is a knowledge on the subject. He has a lot of knowledge on the subject. But Ray, I'm going to miss you. You've been a good friend. We're only 60 miles apart. We will continue our relationships. We have lots of things in common, and the only thing I'm sorry about is, well, thanks to Zoom, maybe he and Roxy can still communicate, but I know she puts him out of the house. But Ray has a great family, and looking forward to Ray and Roxy and the family and all the good things that come to you. You deserve it.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam President. I would love to say some nice words about Senator Scott, but I actually need to announce that the Conference Committee for Senate Bill 9 is happening in room 354 at 11:10.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Health and Human Services will not be meeting today. Just kidding. Before this turns into too much of a roast of Senator Scott, I only have just a few words to say, and I will direct this to the newer members of the chamber because Ray is one of only two people that have made it clear to, at least to me, and I'm assuming to other newly electeds, that this building will take all that you give it. It will take you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year if you allow it. And I remember clearly one of the very first meetings I had with Ray, he echoed more loudly what Senator Greg Brophy had told me right after I got elected as well, which is you have got to find a balance in your life when you're unelected. Now, I think we can all agree Ray takes it a little too far, but I think for a lot of us when we get here, it's very easy to get carried away. It's very easy to get carried away with the pomp and circumstance. It's easy to get carried away with the position, with the policy. You know, you can bury yourself in the policy. And there is an event that we all can attend almost every day, almost every night, almost every weekend if we choose to. And Ray really clearly articulated to me that, Jim, if you want to stay married, if you want to know who your kids are 8 years from now and have a relationship with them, and you want to have a career, because guess what? Time's ticking here. Keep all of this in perspective. And Ray was, again, an example of somebody where if he doesn't have to be here, if he can spend time with his family, spend time with his friends, still responding to constituents and being a good representative for Mesa County, you can do both and not have your life ruined. And so, Ray, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're a very, very clear compass for me on how all of this works. I will be forever grateful, and I think a lot of people can learn from the lesson that you gave me. So thank you, friend, and best wishes to you. Thank you very much.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, I showed up at my first Transportation and Energy Commission meeting, and I'd been told to sit by somebody that knew what they were doing. Instead, I sat by Ray. Little did I know that I was setting myself up to be the straight man for the Ray Scott comedy show. He had names for me that only he would repeat in public. And I don't know how I became the target of his abuse. He kept trying to convince me, you can't help this bill. It's not going to get any better. Just vote no. And occasionally I would. Occasionally. And I think that perhaps helped on the abuse side, but I really do feel for his wife. If Ray is this never-ending fountain of abuse isn't quite the right word, but I'm not sure what else to call it. And so if he's got that in him that's got to come out, his poor wife, not having all of us to bestow that on, she must be a saint. Must be a saint. So Ray has been a highlight down here for me. He's been a bright spot, never takes himself too seriously, never takes me too seriously, and I just wish you the best as you head back west.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, members, I first had the pleasure, or displeasure, all of the above, of meeting Representative Scott back in 2010 when he came to the House, and I got to know him, and even though we were not on the same committees, I saw him sporadically those 2 years, and then I was out of the legislature, and then I came back to the House and came to the Senate, and until this year, until really about 2 weeks ago, I had never seen Ray Scott. I didn't know, Ray, I'd forgotten what you looked like. So I'm really glad you're here because you've gotten a little grayer, maybe a pound or two heavier. I'm not sure about, but I'm really glad to see you because I wasn't sure if the real Ray Scott was still around. But it's over the last 2 weeks, or maybe 3. I'll give you credit for 3. It's been great to have you back in the chamber and enjoy your sense of humor and your passion for the issues that you've worked for, especially on the oil and gas. And I know that no matter where you've been, whether it's been back at your office or back at home, you have been a great representative for the people of Mesa County. And we will miss you. I'm sure you probably have a room set up somewhere where you'll be able to zoom in no matter where you are, and that could be good or bad. But you'll always be welcome back here. I consider you a friend, and I wish you well, and God bless you. It's been my privilege and honor to serve with you.
Thank you very much, my friend. Love you both.
Senator Rankin.
Well, thank you, Madam President. So I first met Ray in 2010. Seems like a long time ago. It was a long time ago. We were sitting together in a room out in Delta, as I recall. Might have been in Grand Junction, but we were both running for office, and we got up and gave our speeches. And I said to myself, there's 2 people in this room that are going to have a hard time getting elected. And I was right about one of them. It was me. So Ray got elected and preceded me by 2 years into the House. After redistricting, then I was able to run in a vacant seat and without any opposition got into the House. So I always considered Ray, I hoped to consider Ray as sort of a mentor since he got there 2 years ahead of me, and he was. So we've worked together on a lot of things. I would say oil and gas. He sort of claims to be a rural legislature, but I don't believe that. Grand Junction is the big city. In fact, I usually, when I'm in Grand Junction, I usually say, oh, it's good to be here in the city. My constituents go to Grand Junction when they need more ammunition, or they want to go to the picture show. But that's what Grand Junction is to me, and I've always considered Ray as sort of the guy who knows Grand Junction in the heart of it. I mean, we've worked together on a lot of things, and I'm sure that we'll be talking in the future about some of those same issues. One of the things we really worked together on was to allow our constituents to do remote testimony. Now, I admit that we got a little carried away. One of us did, anyway, on remote testimony. But we'll keep doing that because actually, bill we just worked on is important. Seriously, to allow our constituents to Zoom in and do testimony. But Ray, thank you for getting here ahead of me and paving the way, and it's been a great experience. We'll continue to work together.
Senator Kirkmeyer?
Nice to see you again.
How you doing?
Thank you, Madam President. So I was trying to think how long I've known Ray, and I would say it's been quite a while. I just remember talking to your county commissioners about you, and they told me, you just need to go down there and tell Ray this is what we think and that he's basically full of it. And when I came down and met Ray for the first time, I thought, they're right. Yeah. They are right. But, I know you did a lot of remote, and you weren't here a lot this session. And I can't say after sitting behind you all day yesterday thinking, God, I'm kind of glad he wasn't here all year, because it's really hard for me to be seen sitting behind you. And I told him, I said, Ray, you've got a really big head. And I have to jump up so that, the president can see me when I raise my hand. I'm moving all around back there. And then we started comparing who had even bigger heads, in size. But anyways, I just want to say thank you to Ray, and I'm not going to say that you're ridiculous today.
Thank you.
There have been moments, though, where I did say that you were ridiculous, and I was right.
Yes, you were.
Thank you. Did you all hear that? Ray said I was right.
I never argue.
But you what? Anyways, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it, truly appreciate it when we were going through Senate Bill 181, your leadership with regard to oil and gas, and appreciate having the opportunity to have discussions with you and about the needs that we had, especially from Weld County. You were there for us. Greatly appreciated that. Appreciate the conversations and your leadership on transportation, because for me, those are the two issues that you really have led on, and your very strong voice. And you're a strong voice for Western Colorado, and I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. So I hope to emulate that and watch and do it and follow your lead on that. But you've been a great leader. You've been just loads of fun to be around. Nobody's really mentioned that too much. Maybe everybody else doesn't think you're fun to be around. I don't know. But I do just appreciate you, and appreciate the friendship, and appreciate the relationship we've been able to have over the last, 12 years or so. So thank you so much. Thanks for being a leader. Thanks for standing up for Colorado, all of the time. Good job. Thank you. You too.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Madam President. And I, too, want to say a few kind words about my colleague, Senator Scott. We sat together in the House for a few years, and he consistently would raid my chocolate almonds. And I found it quite humorous. I finally had to quit buying them because I got a note from his doctor. But, and I also remember one of the first times I remember them using the rule, call the question in the House. Ray was tired because they were filibustering third reading bill, and he wanted to go to lunch, so he went down in the well and called the question so we could go to lunch. So I will miss your sense of humor. I thoroughly enjoyed, too, bantering with you about electric vehicles, via text on the weekends especially. So forwarding him many articles to try to inform him on energy and such. So anyway, Ray, you will be missed.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Madam President. And I too wanted to say just a few words about my friend Ray Scott. I must say that I prefer the two-dimensional Ray Scott to the three-dimensional Ray Scott. The two-dimensional Ray Scott provided me with a place to put my coat, my briefcase, my coffee cup. It also was provided a little entertainment for me when I was able to watch the screen and watch what Ray was up to. Sometimes he'd be walking out in the middle of a field with his hard hat on. I think he forgot that he left his camera on a few times. Fortunately, there were no inappropriate moments on that camera, so that I appreciate. But Ray, the first conversation that you and I had was really the day after I got elected, and you saw the opportunity to begin to pitch your bills, and it didn't take you too long before you were trying to tell me, we need to do this and we need to do that, and you need to support my bill and pass this, and you know, nobody had lobbied me yet, so you were the first, and you were persistent. Year in and year out, middle of summer, I would get these hour-long phone calls as I'm trying to just, you know, do my own thing, and he would be pitching his bills to me and trying to earn those votes when most of us are not paying a lot of attention to what's happening in the legislature. So I appreciate your dedication and your hard work to the friends that you've made and to the folks that you have back on the Western Slope. Ray, I appreciate you.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam President. Happy to get to come up and say a couple words on behalf of my friend and colleague here, Ray Scott. He did offer to pay me to do so, though, just so you know. When I was first elected after I first won my election in 2012 and showed up to the Capitol in 2013, I went through a really tough race. And I think it sets it up to feel adversarial as you show up to the chamber and see all the people who are working really hard against you. And I remember how kind Ray was immediately. It didn't matter. We put the election aside, the House majority aside, and he always treated me with kindness and respect. He left quickly after to come to the Senate, and I'm happy I was able to come join you over here. But when I look back at you, Ray, you've just always been such a kind person, and really wish you the best. And I hope that you let me know when you're in town, and so that I can say hello, visit you on the Western Slope. Really appreciate the person that you are, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. And you don't have to pay me either.
Just gonna give you the cash.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, I wanted one more Ray hug is the reason I came down here. I actually came down because I needed to get a message to you. I had a call from CDOT asking if you're gone yet. And I said, I hope never. When I first came to the legislature, and it was before Senator Scott was there, I was given some advice that I didn't take, and that was, you know, concentrate in one area and do that. And it was from a senator, Senator Ron May, who was an expert in transportation. And it doesn't fit my personality, but it would have been advice well taken. And Ray, you have done that and become the go-to guy for transportation and energy. And I have relied upon you for those topics and known that you were a stand-up guy. Now, I also confess that when Ray asked me to sign on to a letter, I don't just say, oh yeah, hey, just put me on anymore, because I did that last summer, and it was the right thing to do to be on the letter, but you should have warned me that I was going to get all those phone calls from the Transportation Commission. If the mic didn't pick that up, Ray said they deserve it. So, you know, Senator Scott is a guy who has always been someone that when he signed onto your bill or he opposed your bill or there was some kind of arrangement that was made, you could take it to the bank. And that's all too rare here anymore, that you can take it to the bank. So, Ray, I appreciate it that when you made a deal, we could take it to the bank. When you said you were there, you were there, and if you told me you weren't, you weren't. Makes life a lot more straightforward. Ray, I particularly, when I think of you, it won't be for the Senate, it will be those days that you sat behind me in the House and looked over my shoulder, and I was always like, well, Ray's watching me. I don't know what's going on back there. And you sat next to Representative Kathleen Conti, and so the two of you together, having that over your shoulders that'll make you nervous any day. Your sense of humor, Ray, about what is a serious process always reminded me that we have hard and tough decisions to make, but we shouldn't take ourselves so seriously. The issues are serious, but when you take yourself too seriously down here, you're going to get in trouble because it isn't about any of us. It's about the policy, and it's about our constituents and the people of Colorado. And you have always been faithful to your constituents and to the people of Colorado for what has been best for them. And I hope that you will continue to work on transportation for many, many years to come, and for energy for many, many years to come, in this building or outside this building, in government or outside of government. Yeah, I am proud to know you. My life is richer for knowing you. And I have those moments when it crosses my mind, if it's about transportation or energy and those things. I think, I wonder what Ray Scott would have to say about this. And so I may call you up and ask you what you have to say about it. Ray, we love you and we'll miss you.
Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Madam President. Really just an opportunity to pile on. I think it was really, having not served on any committees with Senator Scott, it was really kind of an opportunity to really formally introduce myself. I don't think we've actually really met. I'll introduce myself and wish you best of luck all at the same time, Senator Scott. And I do probably have an internship open this summer, so remotely.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to wrap up, and then we'll turn over the mic to Senator Scott. Some concluding comments. I mentioned in 2010, Ray called and asked my help in securing endorsements. And, you know, there were a lot of people who took that opportunity and helped Ray win that election. Probably more important was after that first session in 2011, when the Principles of Liberty and cut scores came out, all of those people came back to me and asked, what were you thinking? Presenting Ray Scott as a conservative. Now, it did give him the opportunity once he was elected for his champions over in Mesa County, Charles Ashby and the publisher of the Grand Junction Sentinel, to just praise Ray just about every day of his legislative career, which they did with great frequency. And it also gave me the opportunity as majority leader to accommodate his incessant requests to be excused because he needed to be over in Grand Junction working on his campaign for re-election and then county commissioner. And, you know, he did win re-election, but not so much for that county commissioner race. He and my wife share, I think, a perspective that they're so grateful that they're actually not in the seat of county commissioner, given the past few years. The last thing I want to mention I think Ray and I are experiencing this together, and for those of you who will be confronted with term limits in 2 years, or 4, or whenever, there is this myth. And folks who sit over here at the press table, folks who are out there in the lobby, people who are constituents, they sometimes believe that the General Assembly here is a lot like Congress. And people come out of Congress, the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate, and representatives of K Street, where big lobbying firms are located, are known to provide employment for people who do not get reelected or do not run for office again.
Senator Holbert, I am so sorry. It's that time of session.
Yes.
Would you mind taking a brief pause for...
I would be happy to, Madam President.
Thank you for understanding. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam President. I am back for a second turn at the mic to say nice things about Senator Scott and to announce that House Bill 1390 School Finance Conference Committee is meeting in Senate Committee Room 354 right now.
Thank you for your grace, Minority Leader. Please keep going.
Yes, Madam President. But there is this myth that is very common that there are lobbyists or companies standing in line waiting to offer legislators who are term limited 6 or 7 figure jobs. The people of Colorado actually voted to amend our Constitution, and it's very clear there's a 2-year timeout. You can't be hired from the lobby to go into the lobby. And frankly, I think the employers of Colorado understand that this is a part-time citizen legislature and that we have lives outside of this General Assembly, that we don't earn 6-figure salaries, we don't have lifetime pensions, we don't have that mythical congressional health care. But it has been interesting over the past year to talk with my friend Ray as he is attempting to find employment, secure his next adventure after the General Assembly is over. And as I've admitted, I was interviewed by Colorado Politics and admitted I'm applying for jobs for the first time in 30 years. The public believes that we get rich while we serve here, and we certainly do not. Not complaining, not asking for more, just explaining. But as I turn the mic over to my friend, Ray Scott, the Assistant Majority Leader, Senator from Mesa County, I want to just offer a personal thank you to him and his family for the sacrifices that they have made to allow Ray to serve here, to be my colleague and our friend. With that, members, Madam President, would you please put your hands together and welcome the funniest guy in the state Senate, the good senator from Mesa County, Ray Scott.
The Senate will stand in a brief recess to allow Senator Scott to drive to a remote location.
Thank you very much.
Senator Scott, my friend.
Well, thank you so much for all the kind comments. That was really nice of you. Bob, I'm a little concerned I'm going to get a bill for billable hours, so thank you for keeping it a little short. Okay, is it pro bono this time? You're a good man. Thank you. Wow, you know, you sit there and you listen to all these comments about yourself, and it's a little odd. And it makes you be reflective while you're sitting here waiting to have your chance at the mic. And I was sitting here thinking about how the heck did I get here? I think I was in a bar and I lost a bet, as I recall. It was something about, you do it, you know, and here I am. But actually, it was kind of a funny trip because I never intended to run for office. A lot of folks in this room, I've learned over the years, kind of prepared for this. You know, they got involved in school, and then they got involved with a party, and then they got involved with the caucus process, and then all of a sudden they wanted to be an elected official, and here they are. And that's a very cool path. Me, on the other hand, honest to gosh, it was almost losing a bet. I was arguing with my attorney at the time over what was happening with the housing market. We had developments in Montrose and Delta and Telluride, and we were getting slammed. The banks were coming after us. It was a horrific time. And I could not understand for the life of me why the bank wouldn't just sit down and talk to me. It was just the craziest thing. It's like, well, we can work this out, but we just need time. Every financial problem just needs time to be fixed. I learned that. And he kept saying, well, they don't have to because the bank examiners can do this and that and this, and you can just be done in a heartbeat. Well, thank God I was with a community bank who actually did work with me. We worked out, I won't get into how many zeros were on the end, but it was unbelievable. But my attorney told me in a meeting, if you're mad about this, why don't you do something about it? Why don't you go run for public office? Why don't you go do something? Instead of mouthing off all the time, why don't you go do it? And believe it or not, I was actually going to run for the 3rd CD. That's a little scary, looking back. And there was a guy by the name of John Salazar who was our sitting congressman. And I traveled around. We had listening tours throughout the 3rd CD. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody talked me out of it because there was this guy named Scott Tipton who was selected to be our guy. And they said, well, why don't you run for that state house thing? You know, and I'm like, what's that? I didn't know what it was. So they explained it to me, and I thought, well, you know, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe cut your teeth in the state house and then decide what you want to do in the future. But I learned later, and I think all of us may have learned this lesson, or some of us, you never listen to those people because they're never going to let you get that seat anyhow, right? They're always going to have somebody else. So I learned the hard way, but it happens. So I did. I ran for this. I didn't even understand the process. I'm telling you the truth. I didn't even know what I was supposed to do. I went to my first Republican luncheon. I had to go to JCPenney's and buy a jacket. And I walked in this room, and here's a cardboard cutout of Ronald Reagan on this little stage. And at that time, Scott McGinnis had come up to speak. And I'm in the back of the room thinking, what in the world have I gotten myself into? This is the craziest bunch of human beings I've ever seen. They're praising a cardboard cutout, for God's sake. But I hung in there. Then I got phone calls from over here in this big Front Range, Denver, Colorado, from people telling me I shouldn't run. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know who these people were. And I found out about these organizations that I wasn't a part of. Chris mentioned a couple of them. And they were telling me, you know, we have a guy that went through our class, and he's the one that we want to choose. And you really should just go home and just don't run. Well, if you're a young butt kicker from Rifle, Colorado, you don't go home. That just made me grind in a little tighter. Just ground in a little tighter. And lo and behold, I beat this guy. I got on the ballot by one vote at the primary. Oh, I'm sorry, the assembly. I had to ask somebody what that meant. They said, well, you're on the ballot. I said, but I only got 31%. That's okay, you're on the ballot. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. Then I got told I had to walk neighborhoods. Do I look like I like to walk? But they said, Ray, the good news is you only have to do this one time. You're in a Republican area. You'll never have to do this again, ever. Okay. So I walked neighborhoods, talked to folks. That was kind of fun. I started enjoying that. And then I beat this guy 70-30 in the primary. Thank you. Yeah, and I beat this guy. And I was like, what in the world have I, you know? And there was, I'm sorry, folks, on this side, we don't have much competition over there, just saying. So I had no opponent. And they kept saying, well, you're elected, what are you going to do? And I said, man, I don't know. And it was a big joke in town that we just sent a guy, we just sent a guy to the House of Representatives that doesn't even know where the building is. And they were right, quite frankly. And this is another true story. I came here on a Sunday afternoon, and I peeked through the windows to see what it looked like inside. And I thought, wow, that's a cool building. That is really cool. And of course, the rest is kind of history, but yeah, then you get reelected, and that's even crazier because you kind of know what you're doing, but you're not sure. And in Mesa County, just to put this in clarity, they hate you before they elect you. Okay? They hate your guts. Yeah, I was going to say, once you're elected, they threaten to kill you if you leave. So it's like, okay, I don't want to do 2 years. No, no, you're staying. Well, I don't want to. No, you're staying. So here I am. And that's good. This has been a hell of a ride. Learned so much. It was like going back to school. And when you've only been through the 3rd grade, it was a great experience because I got to continue that education. You didn't even get that, Cook. Jeez. But it's a heck of an education. I've got so many stories we could take hours and hours. Do we need to filibuster today? Oh, sorry. Jerry didn't give me the whole scoop. I thought I was supposed to filibuster. I'd be remote. But it's been a fantastic time. You guys have been great. You build these friendships. You never forget things. And, you know, memories are an interesting thing because you can't remember everything, but you remember moments, right? A moment with this person or a moment with that person. Senator Pedersen, wherever she went to, oh, there she is. It was so interesting that you brought that up about us meeting in the House. And I'll tell you the backstory now, okay? We're sitting in the chamber, and there's this blonde, blue-eyed little gal walking through. We don't even know you're elected, to be honest with you, right? We don't know what's going on. And she's walking up and down the aisles. And it was kind of like, what is she doing? And somebody said, well, she's Representative Pedersen. She was just elected. Oh, okay. And she keeps working her way back, and I was kind of in the back. And as she came up to me, I thought, what in the world? So I sat and I talked to her. And I said, would you please explain what you are doing? Because she was walking up to every desk, to every person. I'll never forget this. And she looked at me and she said, you know, I just went through a terrible election. Terrible election. And I just wanted to understand who I was working with, and are they really that bad? Are these people that bad? And she kept saying, you guys are all nice and friendly. But we all learned something that day, didn't we? We really did. We could always work together forever. The sad part is the money and the people outside this building put us against each other, don't they? So sad, but it's just politics today. Anyhow, with that, since I now found out I'm not supposed to filibuster, again, thank you all for the friendship, the time, the education. You've educated me. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again. I'll be back. Not sure what I'll be doing. And yes, my resume is available. No, I'm just kidding. I got plenty to do, trust me. Thank you. God bless all of you. Thank you. It's very nice. Thanks. Oh, good grief. All kinds of goodies. Is this Amendment 41 compliant? It's probably a setup. Yeah, sure.